The thermal monitor picked her up at 2:14 in the morning. Daniel had been awake anyway, the kind of sleeplessness that came in the 9th month of an Arctic posting, when the body had stopped trusting darkness as a signal for rest. He was at his desk reviewing ice coverage data when the proximity alarm tripped. A large heat signature, moving slowly from the northeast. He pulled up the monitor and watched the shape resolve on screen. Large. Moving wrong. A healthy polar bear moved with a particular fluid efficiency, the gait of an animal built for this terrain, comfortable in conditions that killed everything else. This one was lurching, stopping, lurching again. He watched for 30 seconds and then reached for the intercom. "Something's coming in from the northeast," he said. "Not moving right. I need eyes outside." The research station sat on the southwestern coast of Bjornoya, Bear Island, the most isolated point in the Svalbard archipelago, a place where the Barents Sea met the Arctic Ocean and the weather treated the distinction as irrelevant. 8 researchers. A cluster of insulated buildings connected by covered walkways. Motion sensors, thermal monitors, a perimeter fence. Daniel had been here since March. It was now late November. In that time, he had logged 47 polar bear sightings from the station window's adults. Subadults, 1 yearling that had investigated the fuel line for 20 minutes before losing interest. He had not, in 8 months, seen a cub. Not one. He was thinking about this as he pulled on his gear. They went out as a team, 3 of them. Standard protocol for a nighttime bear encounter. Layers. Tranquilizer rifle. The heavy door groaned against the wind. She was 40 meters out. Standing, barely. Her white coat was dark across the shoulders and flanks, in a way that the exterior lights made it difficult to read precisely not white, not quite dark. Something in between. She had 3 cubs pressed against her underside, so small they were nearly invisible beneath her bulk. She was swaying with the particular motion of an animal that was spending a significant portion of its remaining energy on the act of remaining upright. She saw them the moment the door opened. Her head came up, her posture shifted towards something that in a healthy bear would have read as a threat. In this bear, it reads as the last available version of one. Nobody moved. The wind crossed between them, carrying snow. She looked at Daniel directly, steadily, the way large predators looked when they were assessing rather than acting. Then she let out a sound he had not heard from a polar bear before. Not a roar. Not a warning huff. Something lower and quieter, almost effortful, like a sound pushed out through great cost. Then she lay down. Not a collapse. A deliberate lowering front, legs first, then the rest. The movements of an animal that had made a decision and was executing it. She put her head down on the snow. The 3 cubs, freed from the shelter of her belly, scrambled over each other in confusion before piling against her side. Marcus, standing to Daniel's left, said quietly, "She's not attacking." "No," Daniel said. "She's not." He took a step forward. What the thermal monitor had not shown, and what the exterior lights now made clear, was the extent of what she had come through to reach them. She had been in a fight. The evidence was written across her coat in the particular way of injuries, sustained from multiple directions, flanks, shoulders, the back of her neck. Daniel had spent 8 months reading animal signs on this island. He could reconstruct the broad shape of what had happened without needing the details. She had held her ground against something that had come from more than one direction. And she had won. And winning had cost her enough that she had looked at the lights of this station and made a calculation that nothing in her evolutionary history had prepared her for. She had chosen the humans. He knelt in the snow 3 meters from her head. She watched him with her eyes half open, the deep, slow breathing of an animal running on the last of its reserves. Up close, her size was something that statistics didn't prepare you for. 600 kilograms of apex predator, reduced by blood loss and exhaustion to something that looked, in this moment, more fragile than dangerous. The cubs watched Daniel from the shelter of their mother's side. They were perhaps 3 months old. They were alive. He reached back without taking his eyes off her. "Get the kit," he said. "And the thermal blankets. All of them." What followed was not a veterinary procedure. It was improvised field medicine performed in -23 degrees Celsius by climate researchers who had enough training to understand what needed doing and enough experience in this environment to do it without the things they lacked. They worked by the exterior lights and by headlamps, moving carefully around her, always in her sightline, always slow, narrating their movements in low voices, not because she understood the words, but because tone carried information that species didn't determine. Daniel had learned this from a field guide he'd read in his first week and had since confirmed through 8 months of practice. She did not move while they worked. She watched the eyes tracking each person, registering each action, maintaining the continuous low-level assessment that never fully switched off, even in an animal this exhausted. Once, when Marcus moved too quickly toward the cubs, she lifted her head and the sound she made was brief and unambiguous. Marcus stopped. The head went back down. The cubs had gotten cold. They accepted the thermal blankets with the complete passivity of animals that had run out of the energy required for opinions. Within 20 minutes, they were asleep against each other, a pile of white fur rising and falling in slow unison. The mother stayed awake through all of it. By 4 in the morning, the storm had come in properly, the kind of Svalbard weather that made the island's visitor statistics self-selecting. Inside the perimeter, sheltered by the windbreak of the station buildings, the conditions were survivable. They had draped a heated cargo tarp across her body, anchored at the corners against the wind. The exterior temperature was dropping. She was, by Daniel's best read of her vitals, stable. Stable was not the same as safe. He sat on a supply crate 3 meters from her head and watched her breathe and thought about the morning. The rest of the team had gone back inside in rotation, warming up, coming back out, maintaining the watch. Daniel stayed. He told himself it was because he was the most experienced field observer on the posting. This was true and also not the complete reason. He had been in this place for 8 months, watching sea ice data tell a story that was going in one direction, and the wildlife data tell the same story in parallel. And the two data sets together formed a picture of an ecosystem under pressure that he could describe precisely and influence not at all. It was the particular frustration of scientific work to understand something clearly and be able to do nothing about the understanding except document it more accurately. Tonight he could do something. He stayed. At some point before dawn, she fell into a proper sleep, the breathing changing, the vigilance in her posture releasing by degrees until she was fully down, fully out. One massive paw extended across the snow in the relaxed gesture of an animal that had, temporarily, stopped being responsible for everything. Daniel leaned forward and spoke quietly toward her ear.
It's all right, girl.
He told her the cubs were warm.
You're safe.
He could not say whether this information reached her. He said it anyway. She woke up as the light changed. Not sunrise. There was no sunrise at this latitude in November. Only a gradual shift from one kind of darkness to another. a slow, blue-gray arrival that announced itself through the cloud cover without committing to much beyond that. But something in the light triggered something in her. Her eyes opened. Her head came up. The team moved back to the station entrance. Not retreating, creating space. She had been sedated lightly to allow the overnight treatment. The drug would be mostly clear of her system by now. But disorientation on waking was the most dangerous phase. She scrambled upright. A sharp sound, not a roar, but an alarm. The sound of waking in an unknown place and reaching for the threat assessment before anything else. Her head swung. She smelled the antiseptic, the humans, the steel and plastic of the station. Then she heard the cubs. They had woken with the light shift. 3 small voices, close together, coming from just beside her. She turned to them, and the alarm in her posture went somewhere else, displaced entirely by something more urgent. She was over them in 2 steps, burying her face in the pile of them, checking each one. The low, continuous sound she made changing register into something that required no translation. She looked up. The team was at the station entrance, 40 meters away. She looked at them without moving, without vocalizing, for a full 3 seconds. Daniel looked back. They had left food out 4 full coolers from the station's emergency reserve. She found it methodically, eating with the efficiency of an animal that understood it was refueling for what came next, rather than savoring anything. The cubs investigated the tarp, the supply crates, the flattened patch of snow where they had slept. The smallest one approached within 6 meters of the station door before something instinct or the smell of too many humans turned it back. She finished eating. She stood and looked at the open ice to the north, the direction the wind was coming from. Then she nudged the cubs into line. The 3 of them sorted themselves out quickly, the organizational capability of animals that had been doing this since they could walk, which was most of their lives. The smallest one tried twice to go the wrong direction before being redirected with a patience that looked from 40 meters away, exactly like what it was. She did not look back at the station. She walked north, into the wind, her gait still carrying the slight unevenness of recent injury, but functional, sustainable. The gait of an animal that had been repaired well enough to go on doing what it needed to do. The cubs moved with her in the loose cluster that was their standard formation. Daniel watched from the observation window as they crossed the ice field. The thermal monitor tracked the signature 4 heat sources moving together, decreasing in size as the distance increased, until they were below the resolution threshold of the equipment and then gone. He stood at the window for a while after the screen cleared. Marcus appeared in the doorway behind him. She going to make it? Daniel thought about the question seriously. The way the data warranted, the injuries were significant, but not critical. She had eaten well. The temperature was within the range she was built for. The cubs were intact and mobile. The variables he could assess were on balance, positive. I don't know, he said. Better chance than she had yesterday. He turned from the window. The thermal monitor showed the empty ice. He looked at it for a moment, then switched it to the sea ice coverage display he had been working on before the alarm tripped. 6 hours ago, he went to make coffee. In the weeks that followed, Daniel filed his standard station reports and 1 non-standard addendum, a 3-page observational account of the overnight incident, submitted to the Svalbard Environmental Protection Fund's Wildlife Monitoring Program. The account was precise and avoided speculation. It documented the bear's apparent physical condition on arrival, the treatment provided, the behavioral observations during and after, and the departure the following morning. The final paragraph noted that the bear had approached the station from the northeast, against the prevailing wind, which meant she had been moving toward the lights for some time before the thermal sensor picked her up. He noted that this behavior was inconsistent with standard polar bear avoidance of human habitation. He noted that the 3 cubs appeared healthy and that their tracks, measured the following morning, were consistent with cubs of approximately 3 months of age. He did not include his interpretation of what she had done, or why. That was outside the scope of the report. But he thought about it through the long, dark months of Arctic winter, on the evenings when the sea ice data was as complete as it was going to get, and there was nothing left to do but sit with what he knew. He thought about what it took to override 800,000 years of instinct. He thought about the calculations she had run, the variables she could not have named but had nonetheless weighed. In the dark, on a night when the available options had narrowed to 1. The ice data for November showed a 3.7% reduction in coverage from the previous year's record low. He documented this accurately and submitted it on schedule. He did not see her again. The number Daniel was tracking, that winter sea ice coverage across the Svalbard Basin, was part of a larger dataset that told one consistent story. According to the National Snow and Ice Data Center, the 18 lowest Arctic sea ice extents in the 4 7-year satellite record have all occurred in the last 18 years. Every single one of them. In September 2024, Arctic sea ice reached its annual minimum at 28 million square kilometers, nearly 94 million square kilometers below the historical average. And in March 2025, Arctic sea ice recorded its lowest winter maximum since satellite monitoring began, breaking the previous record by 80,000 square kilometers. That is the world the bear walked through to reach the station lights. Polar bears are not in immediate danger of extinction. There are approximately 26,000 remaining across 20 subpopulations in the Arctic, and some populations are currently stable, but stability in a shrinking habitat is a temporary condition, not a permanent one. The sea ice that bears depend on for hunting, denning, and moving between populations is declining at 4% per decade. The timeline that creates is not geological. It is within the lifespan of cubs born this year. If this story stayed with you, there is one organization worth knowing about. Polar Bears International is the only nonprofit focused exclusively on wild polar bear conservation funding field research, supporting the scientists who produce the data, and working on the climate policy that underpins all of it. The link is in the description below. Sharing this video is also not a small thing. Every person who watches it is one more person who understands what the ice data actually means, not as a number on a graph, but as the ground beneath a mother's feet